Hi, Farhan. Welcome to Sunrise Radio. How are you?
I'm very well, Anushka. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Excited for the release of Toofan soon?
Yeah, getting there every single day. It gets closer, and the butterflies are flitting around more and more violently with every
I'm
passing.
sure. I'm sure. So, Farhan, tell me a little bit different, of course, in this time that we are. It's having an OTT release. Does it really bother you having an OTT release versus a cinematic release? I mean, how are you standing in your opinion for this?
No, I feel actually absolutely fine with um, uh, with Amazon releasing the film on the 16th. Um, you know, I mean, what over the last 18 months, what I've also come to understand is, firstly, I mean, just the phenomenal reach that these platforms have across the world.
Yeah.
That on the day and date when the film releases, I mean, it's going to go across to over 240 countries and territories. Which not only does it like randomly appear on their screen, they're well aware of in
Mhm.
advance that such a film will be coming on that day. So that's an incredible opportunity in itself, which is one. And also the other thing is, um, what I would like to believe, because I've experienced it from having watched things releasing over the last 18 months that I have been watching, like from starting from like a filmmaker like Martin Scorsese, for example, who did Irishman, for platform.
Yeah.
Um, it really isn't about, to me, it no longer is just about the screen experience.
Mm.
I feel the screen in our homes now has in itself become a big screen,
Yeah,
because we're consuming almost everything off of it.
absolutely.
So it doesn't bother me at all that I can't have this film in a theater. I feel great that there's over, I don't know, 70-80 million people, households actually, that this film will reach. How
Mm.
many how many ever of them will watch it, not watch it, I don't know. But
Mm.
the fact that the potential of the consumption of this film, the viewership of this film is phenomenal. And as artists, that's what we want. We want eyeballs. We want people to see our work. So it's great.
No, of course. And do you feel like this whole change in the industry, this whole change in life, the way we watch things now, has that made you choose your projects as a producer and as an actor differently?
No, not really. I mean, eventually, what we are doing is we're serving the story. We're still telling it the same way. I
Yeah.
don't think how you create a film, or how you go about choosing your work
Mm.
should change depending on what kind of release it's having. I mean, of course, if it's a show format, then it's a different hat.
Mm.
If it's some reality TV thing, then it's a different hat. But as long when you're talking about film per se, you're going to make the same film regardless of whether it releases in a theater or it releases on Amazon Prime Video.
Mm.
Which is, you're going to do the best work that you possibly can do. And you're going to have a film of hopefully the best kind of quality that you can achieve. And that's what it's going to be. So that doesn't change.
Mm. Well, Tufan is looking really good. The trailer is looking
Thank
absolutely
you.
fantastic. Now, let boxing, like largely known as a man's sport back in the day, but how do you feel that that perspective has changed now?
Well, to start with, I mean, it's no longer considered just a man's sport, which is great.
Mm.
As nothing should be considered only male, or only, when it comes to this kind of like recreational activity or a sporting activity.
Mhm.
So the thing, we've grown up watching such incredible films, sport films. I was very fortunate to have been able to do a film earlier 7 years ago called Bhag Milka Bhag with Rakesh again.
Mhm.
And it there's so much you can take from it, because the analogies of sport vis-a-vis life are so telling,
Mm.
and it's such a great way for somebody to understand a message or learn a lesson or get some inspiration or discover something new within themselves through these analogies, because everyone enjoys sport. So
Mm.
it's very easily palatable, you know. So that we've struck upon something that has that is a story with a heart and with a message, and that we can share it through this experience of using boxing as the sport and the backdrop to tell this story. um, was as challenging as it's been fun.
And you've mentioned, you just briefly touched upon the fact that you've worked with Rakesh
Yeah.
previously. How has your relationship with him evolved, especially now that you've done Toofan with him?
Uh, I mean, I think pretty much from the early days of getting together on Bhag Milka Bhag, um, I realized that I could trust him completely, um, and that was based on the fact that when he commits to a film, you can see that there is nothing else that he's thinking about apart from that film, and how he can make it well, how he can make it better than even what he thought was possible. So he kind of he gets obsessed with it. And I like that in a person, because when I work, I like going to that place with them, and sharing that energy with them. So it's been I trust him. Like, I trust him that he'll tell the story and he'll give me the freedom and the responsibility to do my job the way I think I'd like to do it.
Yeah.
So um, it's very interesting, because after our initial discussions and our agreements on how we see the character, what we want the character, just basically get a sense of the guy. After that, it's almost on some level like working in um, um, how do I put this problem? Like, we're working in kind of like it what would almost feel like watertight compartments from each other on some
Wow.
level, you know.
Yeah.
And at the same time, there's just this one area, like the classic Venn diagram, where
Mm.
you have like these two larger areas which are doing their own thing, but this one small section where they collaborate on and have things in common. It's kind of like that. So that's the freedom that I get from it, and every time he feels that the character is changing shape, or is going off and becoming a part of some other journey, he kind of pulls me back towards that little area in the middle, and then lets me go again.
And I think that's the beauty about Rakesh. I think he does it so well. He did it so beautifully with Bhag Milka Bhag. And now again, I mean, I can just see a little bit of that in the trailer itself. I mean, I don't know obviously about the movie yet, but it really does shine through. So
Oh,
you
thank
can
you.
really tell that there's been a lot of hard work put into this film, and not just hard work, but like you said, he gets obsessive, and you really get into it. So that
Yeah.
really does come through the trailer.
Yeah, what's interesting is, I mean, what's interesting is to have the combination of being obsessed by something, yet not being a control freak.
Yeah, yeah.
So to find that balance is not easy. That
Mm.
he is completely passionately in love with the film. He It's his own, it's his film. Yet at the same time, he makes every single person feel responsible for what they're supposed to bring to the table, and that's quite unique.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we talk about your body transition and the things that you had to go through, I mean, did you really have to push yourself as an actor for this role? Because I mean, that's what it looks like you did.
Um, yeah, it wasn't easy at all by any stretch of the imagination. Boxing, as much as I've loved watching the sport itself, when championship title fights and stuff take place for years now, since the 80s, I've always tried to watch them whenever they're available here to see.
Mm.
And then of course films on boxing, but what you don't realize, because when you're watching it, more often than not, when you're watching a fight, you're seeing the end result of of a life dedicated to training and a life dedicated to the sport and to the discipline. You're just
Yeah.
seeing, like 3 rounds or 4 rounds of 3 minutes each.
Mm.
And it's amazing. I mean, it's artistic, it's scientific, it's brutal, it's beautiful, yet it's it's ugly, you know. So it's a very mesmerizing sport as a viewer. But what you don't see is, you as a layperson, you know, who doesn't know, and I didn't know much about the sport before, is you think you need, of course, that you need stamina to a certain extent, but you feel that you need, like, really, like, you need strong hands and strong arms and strong shoulders and a strong back, you know, and a strong jaw, I guess, you know,
Yeah.
and you'll do well. You have no idea what's going on with these boxers below the waist, you know, with their legs and with their feet. There's a dance going on there. And so much of boxing is about your legs, and so much about it is about your feet, positioning yourself. How do you work into certain angles and work yourself into out of certain corners and out of certain situations? And so much focus is paid to the feet, which you honestly have no understanding of when you just watch it. So when
Yeah.
you get in there and you feel that, okay, like, you know, I feel pretty strong and I feel tough and I'm going to be great at this, and then they strip away all that machismo that you thought you had, and, and you have to, like, kind of reinvent everything that you thought about the sport, and you thought about how great a boxer you'd be. You have to, like, rethink all of it, and it's an education, of course, which is great because you're learning something new. But at the same time, it is so demanding. It is by far one of the toughest sports,
Wow.
even by sports people's confessions. You know, like, it is, boxing is
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
tough sport.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was hard, but it's just so worth it because you're working with the right people doing it,
Mm.
you know, or trainers, director of the film, coach, the guy who came to choreograph it, Daryl. I mean, just all of them. I mean, they've put this immense amount of faith in you, and you just got to make it happen.
Yeah, and here you are. You did. You made it happen, and you make it look so easy. Like all this that you're telling me. I mean, who would have ever thought? I mean, if you're really doing something like what you're doing, and you're saying boxing is like a lot of how you play with your feet and your legs. Like, you know, when you're just watching it, you don't think that, do
Yeah,
you?
you don't think about it at all. You don't.
No, at
You know,
all.
I mean, you just think you'll rely on, like, brute strength and knock the other person out. It is not
Exactly.
easy. The other thing that I learned when I finally got into sparring for the first time, because a lot of training happened, drills happened, working the bag, doing this, doing that, and then finally we came into sparring, just to get a sense of what it's like to be with an opponent in the ring. You know, and so you just go and you do a couple of rounds. Of course, you're wearing protective gear and stuff, but
Yeah.
you go in and you start getting into those rounds, and you realize how long 3 minutes can be.
Yeah, I can
Like,
imagine.
it is long.
Oh,
Like, it just feels like, man, you're going to, your lungs will burst. You know, I mean, maybe the first 2 rounds you'll fly through a little bit easily,
hmm.
you'll get through. But when it starts getting to round 4 and round 5, and we do like 10 rounds and 12 rounds, because, you know, like, in just to, like, kind of get that kind of, and get a feel of it, get the mindset of it.
Yeah.
And 3 minutes is so long. It feels like an hour. You know, it feels that long. And then when you have that break of a minute, the minute feels like the shortest minute you've ever experienced in your life. So you realize how flexible time is, depending on your experience in that moment. Yeah.
My God. Now, Farhan, tell me, what is the underlying message of this film? Because let's face it, we've had quite a few sports movies,
Yeah.
in cinema that we've had. But what is the underlying message of this, and how is this different to what we've already seen?
Well, the underlying message of this film is a message of, um, it actually is a message of love. It is a message of acceptance and understanding of the other, given our differences.
Mm.
It is about um, accepting people for their character, not rejecting people because of labels that may come attached to them. So really recognizing the human being and
Mm.
recognizing the person beyond any kind of preconceived notion and preconceived idea that we may have of another person, just depend because of where they come from, uh,
Mm.
what community they belong to, how rich or poor they are, to just get beyond all of that. So essentially, like, seeing people for the character, and that's for me is what the film really touches upon. and it also on some level touches upon which is a little bit more obvious, I would say, in the thing is honestly the uh, indomitable spirit that all of us have. When we believe in something,
Yeah.
that they say faith can move mountains. You know what I mean? So it also touches upon that aspect.
Well, that sounds lovely, and I can't wait to watch it. It's looking really, really fabulous.
Oh, thank you, Anushka.
I can't wait to see all the hard work that you put in, and I'm definitely going to watch it with a completely different view of boxing now after speaking to you. So thank you,
Oh,
Farhan.
thank you.
And we look forward to seeing you on screen with loads more stuff coming our way. So
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Take
Thanks for
care.
your time.
Bye.
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 Bye.